The next guest couldn't join us physically, but he does join us live. His name is Fischer, and he's the president of the European Union of Jewish Students. We're trying to connect now to Benny on Skype.
Hello?
Yes, we did connect.
Benny.
Hello. Yes, hi Niklas.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So then let me first of all start by thanking you for letting me speak here today in front of everyone, and also obviously by apologizing for the fact that I cannot be with you today. We have another conference here in Paris that I had to attend, but obviously I'm a big supporter of the whole idea, and I'm very thankful and happy to see that this conference was carried out. So kudos to you, Andrea, and to all the organizers. So understand that what I would like to share with you is a brief insight on how Jewish diaspora representation is looking like, the importance of it, and obviously also some of the challenges we face, but at the same time also share a few best practices with you. I don't know how much of an introduction you got, so my name is Benjamin Fischer, I'm originally from Germany, and I'm the elected president of the European Union of Jewish Students, which is an umbrella organization of 35 national Jewish student bodies. And as such, we do not only work with these national organizations, but we also represent them in front of the European institutions, so the Parliament, the Council, the Commission, the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and then lastly also the UN Human Rights Council. So obviously we work a lot on bringing diaspora narratives to political institutions, and therefore here are some of the experiences that I would like to share with you. Both from my personal life, but also from the work with EUJS. So the first thing that I think is important to understand when speaking about diaspora narratives, and specifically the European Jewish narrative, the first thing that I would like to emphasize on is that especially as young activists, we try to change the European narrative of the Jewish diaspora, but also as diasporas as a whole, which is also why we found synergies and overlapping ground to collaborate. And why is that so? From a Jewish perspective, the narrative that was being built up in Europe is mainly based on three issues. People get introduced to Judaism predominantly in history classes. Since you have to understand, the Jewish minority, not only in Europe but also worldwide, is rather small. You know, there are up to approximately 15 million Jews living all over the world. That is not a big group of people, so we are not that visible with regard to personal encounters. So since many Europeans have never encountered a living Jew in their everyday life, the first introduction to Judaism happens in history classes when speaking about the Holocaust, when speaking about the genocide. And the second one then obviously happens in everyday life when people are when people encounter stories about the conflict in the Middle East, about Israel. And these both are very negative introductions to a narrative that is so heterogeneous and so diverse. And it also leads to misunderstandings. For example, that every Jew would be an Israeli, or that every Israeli would be a Jew. The state of Israel has more than 7 million inhabitants, and closely about 5.5 million of them are Jewish. So there are many Israeli Christians, many Israeli Arabs, Muslims, and other minorities, Jews, who are very fastly being taken out of that narrative. And then thirdly, I kind of already touched base of it, Judaism is therefore also being perceived as a very homogeneous, religion, ethnicity, people, And that also is a problem, because just as every other religion, Judaism is very diverse. There are various different denominations, there are various different cultural differences. A Jew in Iraq, where you have the oldest Jewish diaspora community of the world that is older than 2,700 years, prays completely different from a Jew that grows up in Poland. And many of the traditions, but also beliefs even, are very different. So these are the three issues that we face in everyday life, and that explains a lot of the work that we are doing. Apart from trying to advocate on behalf of Jewish youth rights, but at the same time also of human rights, we are both communitarian as much as we are universalists. So whilst doing that, we also try to change cultural educational differences. So one of the things that we claim, and that also came up in the project of the Europe of Diasporas, was a new diaspora narrative for Europe. One that includes Jewish, Armenian, Roma perspectives, not only in history classes or in everyday news, but in music classes, in literature. Okay? A narrative that includes the contribution that our diasporas have brought to Europe, to the world, for centuries, for thousands of years, as much into the European or the mainstream narrative as others. So we do not claim to only be perceived as part of society, but we claim to also be able to be in a position of acting as part of society. We don't want to be accepted, we want to be perceived as partners, as people who have been there for, as I said, for decades, for thousands of years, and therefore are as rightfully part of this set of values that we speak about so often as others. You heard many politicians speaking about Jewish, Christian, European values, but we never really face that when it comes to education or even culture. Yeah? Okay, but in everyday life, that means that our organization works a lot on intercultural and interreligious dialogue. We work obviously with the Roma and the Armenian community, but also with the Muslim community, with the Christian community. And this comes out of the idea that we are a little tired, I would say, of finding ourselves constantly on conferences where Jews speak to Jews about Jews. Because, well, we could speak about the discrimination, about anti-Semitism, but also other topics are not issues that only concern Jews, but concern society as a whole. So we started also developing our human rights discourse following that idea. Jewish rights are human rights, and human rights are Jewish rights. Therefore, we have to stand up for other people's rights as much as we want others to have empathy with us or stand up for our rights. And this is how we got into that project, Europe of Diasporas, and this is something that we also had to, redefine on a constant basis, because obviously this was a process. This was not something that was being learned from after 1 or 2 days. And I don't know how much you had an insight already into what a Europe of Diasporas actually looks like, but I can tell you that we realized that this is a long journey, but it is a journey that is valuable to take. And definitely it's a journey that brought so much to the people that were involved, and it's something that let us grow, not only in the way we defined ourselves, but also the way we defined our work. And I'm incredibly proud about the outcomes of it, and obviously are thankful and grateful and honored to have been part of that journey. Yeah. So thank you also, Nicolas, at that point. Nicolas Tavitian, you have to understand, was the driving force behind this program. He was the one managing it, and who's made many of these initiatives possible. And I look forward to joining you on that on that, well, to take that journey together, let me say it that way, okay? I don't know whether you could see me now, or whether still everyone can hear me, but I hope I could.
We
Okay, that's great.
Most of the speech, but I didn't manage to interrupt you to tell you.
Okay, no.
We could see you all the time, yes.
So this is what I wanted to share with you, and these are the brief remarks. But obviously, if there are any more questions or remarks from your side, I'd be happy to maybe take them at that side. I don't know how you wanted to moderate that. But yeah, let me start by thanking you again for giving me the opportunity to speak before you, by thanking you for the incredible work you do. And as I said, I look forward to taking those steps together.
Hi Benny, Juana Sucho again on behalf of the Faculty for Political Science in Bucharest. My question would be, because you mentioned that you're working together in various projects, could you give us some examples, like really what you're doing in the field? That would be interesting, I think, for the young audience that we have here.
Of course. So, I mean, we had a very long cooperation with the Roma community in various forms. It was joint campaigning for obvious reasons. I mean, the biggest challenge you face when it comes to campaigns is that it only stays in your own bubble. But the moment you share your network, you reach people you would have never been able to reach before. And this goes both ways, obviously. We had, just to give one example, basically every Remembrance Day, we had joint statements, we had joint campaigns. That means us for the Armenian Genocide Day, it means us for the 2nd of August for the Roma community, but it means also the Roma and the Armenian community for Holocaust Remembrance Day. With the Roma community, we had joint advocacy trainings in Brussels. We just now had a session in Budapest in which we spoke about ways of jointly combating racism, intolerance, anti-Gypsyism, and anti-Semitism. We had a joint seminar that was actually the moment when the joint initiative of EUJS was born in Georgia, when for the first time we brought Roma, Armenians, and Jews together to one room in order to discuss possible synergies. That was rather in order to touch base. But out of this whole initiative, also new things came up. We had academic conferences in universities. We have, in December, we will present the work of EUJS at a conference which is called Limud, which is a Jewish learning festival that is peer-to-peer. And the idea is to take this very, very established Jewish initiative to diaspora communities, and even think about starting to develop a Limud conference for diasporas. I don't know whether you heard about the big conference that we held in the European Parliament together with the Armenian and the Roma community, in which we presented our work, which again shows joint advocacy efforts. But beyond that, it also includes participating in each other's events. So for the Roma Genocide Remembrance Day, there was an event in Auschwitz. We went there, we participated. Just on the 29th of November, there will be an event in the European Commission, a hearing on in that case, it's Roma-based discrimination, and we were invited to speak and to share a Jewish initiative in a Roma event. Together with the initiative of diasporas, together with the Roma and the Armenian network, we spoke about national initiatives. We started a photo exhibition. We had cultural exchanges. But there's more to it. There are initiatives on a national level that are worthwhile sharing. More is one of these initiatives that I would like to share with you from Hungary, where a group of Jewish youth activists that were involved in youth movements started building up these structures for other communities, with other communities. So a tradition that is over like centuries old was being brought to communities where such traditions do not exist, in order to then jointly build up youth movements. I mean, you all probably are familiar with the Armenian, the Pan-Armenian Games, and then the Armenian version of Birthright. These are initiatives that exist pretty much in the exact same way also in the Jewish community, where, you know, we found each other sitting in a room and realized both of our communities have the exact same initiatives, but somehow there seems to be no form of communication, which we started with the Europe of Diasporas. We spoke about how we could bring best practices from our own communities into each other's communities. So what can Armenians and Jews learn from the Roma community? Which, you know, doesn't take more than having a group of experienced activists together in one room presenting their work and then asking ourselves how can we project these initiatives to our own bubbles. It also goes beyond that. I mean, on an organizational level. I mean, you have to understand, living and being active in Brussels is a very hectic lifestyle. In our case, we advocate in front of 3 international institutions. We are, you know, a youth NGO, so also with regard to capacity, sometimes it's simply necessary to have people on your side. And it happened various times that, I mean, I'm in the position now for a little bit more than 1 year, that I was able to simply pick up the phone and also call our friends at AGB Europe, our friends at Pira Mensa, in order to discuss, to share best practices and to get insights. So also on an organization level, there was simple collaboration with regard to sharing experiences. And then, apart from all of that, regarding EUJS, as I said, we worked together with the Muslim community a lot. We had joined, it started with reading circles. It went over to joint activism seminars as well, where we train youth in order to get active on a political level in front of political institutions and let them speak on their own behalf. We just now, I mean, I'm here on a conference that is called Connecting Action. It's an interfaith initiative that we are involved with together with the Muslim Jewish Conference, of which we are a part of. We are part of the steering committee. There are many more examples to share in practice, but I think the most important thing to mention maybe here is that whatever we did jointly in cooperation with other communities, we had to learn that with regard to coalition building, it's important to take two main creeds into consideration. A, that you cannot get into a coalition knowing the exact outcome. The moment you start a coalition and you already know what you want to get out of it, you put a pressure on the work that can be very counterproductive. But at the same time, you have to make sure that there is an outcome. So you have to make sure that you go beyond superficiality. And this is what the journey then has to look like, that you at the one time have to speak about things that are uncomfortable to speak about, especially with the Muslim community. You know, when we sit in a room, we know what elephants are there in the room, and we either try to tackle them right away, or we try to set a structure, so to first build trust in order to then address them. But then we know that they have to be addressed, otherwise we stay superficial. But at the same time, we cannot say, okay, we meet now, and after 3 days we want to give out a joint statement that we've pre-written, and everyone has to not, because it simply doesn't work that way. So this may be one of the experiences that we learned from all of these initiatives. Yeah, I mean, when the Assyrian community, I didn't mention that at all, the Assyrian community was also part of that whole process with whom we collaborated on various levels now, mostly on personal levels. We invite each other to our joint initiatives in Brussels. We show up and we learn from each other. And, you know, on a very pragmatic level, we have a certain group of MEPs, of the member of the European Parliament, that we have very direct relationships with. Other organizations have theirs. Sometimes it makes sense to put each other in touch there, to just make a stakeholder mapping and realize through a network, your organization would be able to reach people they were never able to reach before, and vice versa. I hope that was an answer.
Yes, that was. Thank you very much, Benny Fischer, for joining us today, and I hope that the next meeting is going to be live. And good luck with your work, and thank you again for the information and for the passion with which you presented all your projects. Good luck.
Thank you very much.